Maryam Hamka was 36 years old, a beloved daughter and sister who lived in Brunswick, a vibrant inner-city suburb of Melbourne, Australia. Her younger brother Hassan would later describe her as a beautiful person with an amazing heart. She was a good auntie who loved spending time with her nieces and nephews. Maryam had long black hair, brown eyes, and an olive complexion that reflected her Middle Eastern heritage. In early 2020, Maryam met Toby Loughnane, a 41-year-old man with prior drug convictions and a disturbing past. At first, he seemed charming and attentive, but beneath that surface lurked something far darker. Their relationship lasted 15 months. 15 months that would ultimately cost Maryam her life. Friends noticed bruises on her arms and face. Family members heard about arguments that turned physical. Maryam confided in loved ones about Toby's threats, his violence, his controlling behaviour. Both Maryam and Toby were drug users, but substances didn't explain the deliberate cruelty he inflicted on her. The warning signs were impossible to ignore. In July 2020, just months into their relationship, Maryam walked into a Coles supermarket with swollen eyes, puffy lips, injured wrists, and blood trickling from her nose. When workers asked what happened, she broke down. Her boyfriend had bashed her. He had put his fingers down her throat and stuffed a sock in her mouth. She genuinely believed she was going to die. But that incident was far from isolated. In February 2021, a witness saw Toby throw a phone charger and a small ladder at Maryam. When the objects missed, he punched her in the face and kicked her in the back. Then, on March 6, 2021, came the most terrifying incident. Toby showed up at Maryam's family home carrying a knife. Her sister Hannah watched in horror as Toby cornered Maryam in the bathroom. Her boyfriend grabbed a bat and broke down the bathroom door before Toby could finish whatever he had planned. Throughout their relationship, Toby sent Maryam what Justice Christopher Beale would later describe as a torrent of highly abusive text messages and voicemails. He told her he was going to split her skull. He said he would go to jail just to see her suffer. He promised to beat her beyond recognition, within 2 inches of her life. He wrote that he was literally going to cut her head off, that she better hope the cops came for her sake. In other messages and voicemails, he threatened to shoot her, to drown her, to set her on fire, to slice her face off. He told her he would make her scream in agony. Toby also pursued Maryam in his car during 2021, followed her into her family's home, and threatened her friends. Maryam's family contacted police multiple times, desperate for help. But the system that's supposed to save victims of domestic violence so often fails them. By April 2021, Maryam's family knew something terrible was going to happen. They just didn't know that time was already running out. On April 9, 2021, Maryam's mother saw her daughter for the last time. Toby was screaming at Maryam, demanding she get into his car. Maryam's mother watched helplessly as her frightened daughter climbed into the vehicle. As the car pulled away, a sickening dread settled over her. The next day, April 10th, Maryam was captured on CCTV at the Woolworths supermarket on Albert Street in Brunswick at 5:30 p.m. wearing a black dress. She told her family she was going to visit a friend in Brighton. It was the last time anyone outside of Toby's apartment would see Maryam alive. Later that evening, Maryam sent a text to her friend Shane Allen saying, "Sorry I blew out." Around 3 or 4 a.m. on April 11th, Shane called her, concerned. She didn't answer. She would never answer her phone again. Inside Toby's Brighton apartment, something horrific was unfolding. Toby filmed a video of Maryam while she was half naked and clearly drug-affected, making degrading comments as he recorded her vulnerable state. Then the screaming began. Neighbours heard a woman's voice cutting through the night. She was screaming, sobbing, the sounds of someone in absolute terror. The noise went on for hours. And then, around 3 a.m. on April 11th, 2021, the screaming stopped. At 4:37 a.m, 2 text messages were sent from Maryam's phone to a friend. But Maryam wasn't the one sending them. She was already dead. Toby had taken her phone, trying to create the illusion she was still alive. One of Toby's friends later came to the apartment and found Maryam's naked body curled in the fetal position in the shower. Instead of calling police, Toby made a different choice. He chose to cover up what he'd done. Maryam's body lay in Toby's bathtub for days, while her family frantically tried to reach her, while they called her phone over and over with no response. Maryam was decomposing just miles away. Toby continued sending messages from Maryam's phone, trying to make it seem like she was still alive. He reached out to a friend through Gumtree to buy a steam cleaner. His apartment needed a deep clean, he said. When police would later search the Brighton apartment, they found a significant number of cleaning products. Toby had spent days scrubbing with bleach, trying to erase the evidence. On April 14th, 3 days after Maryam died, Toby moved her body into his friend's car. He drove southeast to Cape Schanck on the Mornington Peninsula and buried her in a shallow grave in the dense bushland, far from any walking paths. Then he drove back to Brighton and continued his performance of innocence. On April the 15th, 2021, 5 days after Maryam was last seen, her family reported her missing. Detectives reviewed the CCTV footage from Woolworths and interviewed family and friends. All signs pointed to Toby Loughnane. On April 16th, police executed a search warrant at Toby's apartment. When officers asked about Maryam's whereabouts, Toby looked them straight in the eye and lied. He claimed he hadn't seen her and expressed outrage that her family wasn't doing more to help find her. Police arrested him that night. In August 2021, he was charged with murder. But they still hadn't found Maryam's body. We still don't know where she is. It's almost been 8 months and we still don't know where she is. It's been very hard. I haven't slept, been having nightmares, crying every day. I just want my sister home. It's like hell. 2 years passed. 2 years of waiting, of living in that horrible limbo between hope and despair. Then, in May 2023, Toby's lawyers received information from their client. After 2 years of silence, he was finally ready to reveal where he had left Maryam's body. In August 2023, police travelled to Cape Schanck and found Maryam's bones. Her skeleton showed fractures to the nasal bones, right eye socket, and right side of the jaw, injuries consistent with being beaten in the face. The pieces of the puzzle were starting to fit together, and the picture they formed was chilling. In May 2024, Toby faced trial at the Supreme Court of Victoria. His defence? Maryam died of a drug overdose, and his only crime was not calling an ambulance. His barrister emphasised that both were heavy drug users, arguing the prosecution hadn't proven exactly how Maryam died. But prosecutor Christy Churchill painted a different picture. She detailed the pattern of abuse, the escalating violence, the threatening messages. She presented those horrific texts to the jury, the threats to split Maryam's skull, to beat her beyond recognition, to cut her head off. Churchill described the July 2020 Coles incident, the February and March 2021 assaults, how Toby pursued Maryam in his car and threatened her friends. She showed the degrading video Toby filmed of Maryam hours before her death. The prosecutor told the jury about neighbours who heard a woman screaming for hours, about the messages sent from Maryam's phone when she was already dead, about the friend who found her body in the shower. Churchill detailed the cover-up, the messages, the steam cleaner, the bleach, how Toby buried Maryam in bushland, and then claimed to police he hadn't seen her. The prosecutor argued this wasn't an overdose. Toby had fatally assaulted Maryam with murderous intent. On June 28, 2024, after less than 2 days of deliberation, the jury reached their verdict. Guilty of murder. Maryam's brother Hassan told reporters outside the courthouse, "He's a murderer, and he got what he deserved." On February 14, 2025, nearly 4 years after Maryam's death, Justice Christopher Beale sentenced Toby Loughnane. Justice Beale said, "An important circumstance of your offence is that you murdered Ms. Hamka in the context of long-term domestic violence. The fatal violence you inflicted on her was not an isolated incident." The judge detailed the pattern of family violence, the text messages that made for appalling reading, the video Toby filmed while Maryam was drug-affected. He noted Toby had an extensive history of violence against Maryam and other partners. Justice Beale found Toby's prospects for rehabilitation were guarded with no evidence of genuine remorse. He said, "I am not satisfied that you are truly remorseful, as opposed to feeling sorry for yourself and those around you." Justice Beale sentenced Toby Loughnane to 28 years in prison, eligible for parole after 20 years. Outside the courthouse, Hassan said the family felt justice had been done after 4 years of waiting, but then he added the most heartbreaking truth: "But the justice will never bring Maryam back." Nothing could bring her back. No sentence, no verdict, no acknowledgement of guilt. Maryam was gone, stolen by a man who claimed to love her, but who actually saw her as something he could control, hurt, and ultimately destroy. The text messages Toby sent now serve as a grim reminder of the warning signs of domestic violence. When someone threatens to kill you, when they detail exactly how they'll do it, those aren't just words, they're promises. Maryam's family knew she was in danger. They called police. They tried to intervene. But the system that's supposed to protect victims of domestic violence failed her, just as it fails countless women every day. Maryam's family started a petition calling for changes to the justice system, for better protections for victims, for accountability for violent offenders. They wrote that the justice system is failing women, that women are dying because the system isn't equipped to deal with ongoing patterns of abuse and coercive control. There were no winners in this case. Only broken lives left behind. A family that will never be whole again. A woman who will never get the chance to grow old, to celebrate another birthday, to cut her brother's hair and laugh with him one more time. Justice was served when Toby Loughnane was sentenced to 28 years in prison. But justice, as Maryam's brother so perfectly said, will never bring her back. Rest in peace, Maryam Hamka. You deserved so much better than what this world gave you.